Hey guys, welcome back to the Bat Cave. So, today I want to talk about collective punishment. And yes, to answer your questions before I get into that, today is National Emo Day. It is December 18th, 2019, and I am going full 2006 in my look today. I've got my trip pants on from '05. I've got my Five Finger Death Punch shirt on from 2018. My makeup's done like I did in high school, and I've got one of my hoops in instead of my posts. Any other questions? All right, let's get into it. So, collective punishment was actually brought to my attention by one of the kids. And obviously, they didn't have the terminology to explain to me that, oh, yeah, I'm dealing with collective punishment. So, for those of you who don't know what collective punishment is, it's when a larger group of people are blamed for or punished for the actions of one individual or small group. Most of the time, this happens in war times. It also happens with race most of the time, or religious organizations. But the reason why I wanted to bring up the fact that it happens a lot in war times is because we're actually dealing with collective punishment in our country right now in multiple different ways. So, most of you don't know, but a lot of the kids in my family and even the people in my family, we deal with a lot of mental health issues. And the mental health issues that we have are kind of invisible. So we've got the ADHD, the depression, the anxiety, autism, behavior disorders, things like that. Things that you, looking at us, you would never know. And most of the time, we have learned coping mechanisms and things like that over the years that we seem normal. We hide it very well. But because of some of the kids having BD issues, some of them have actually experienced either being in a special ed type or behavior disorder type classroom setting, things like that. And so my nephew made a comment about how a lot of times if kids act out in the old classroom, he's in a regular classroom now, the whole class would get punished for it if the action wasn't like an outburst or a tick or things like that. And I'm like, so what would happen? And he would be like, well, a lot of the kids who kind of antsy, they would talk amongst themselves, and then when we were supposed to be doing like study time or they would talk over the teacher, and the next thing we know, we're all getting punished for it. And I'm like, yeah, I remember in school, like there were always those talkative kids who would talk when the teacher's talking or disrupting the classroom. And then we would all do silent time. And then I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, so you're punishing an entire group of students for the actions of maybe one or two. Huh. That sounds like collective punishment. this has happened in the work setting for me before. So at one of my old jobs, the establishment no longer exists, so I'm freely able to talk about this location and by name. So I know a lot of restaurants nowadays, they have like the little tabletop things or whatever, where maybe they have like a royalty program or like a rewards program. I know that a lot of places have them now where you get like coupons and mailers and things like that. Well, over 5 years ago, I worked at a Lone Star Steakhouse. And by the time I got there in 2010, there was maybe like 4 or 5 locations left in my surrounding area. Yeah, there wasn't a lot. And this was back before that digital age. So in order for them to sign up for our rewards, you would actually get like little cards, like postcards type deal, and then you have to fill out their name and like their email address and like their phone number and all this kind of hoopla. And then they would get coupons in their email, and maybe they would be put on like a mailing list or things like that. And that's how they got like 20% off for their birthday or something like that. And we had to like sign up so many in a period of time. And if you didn't, there would be like repercussions. Sometimes you would get your shifts taken away. Sometimes you would get like the shorter, crappier shift if you were serving. Sometimes you would just get a shitty section for a little bit. And I haven't experienced this or like in jobs since, but I remember there'd be some times where like the manager at Lone Star would jump in the kitchen, or one of them would be working the floor and things like that. And maybe so we only had one drink station. So sometimes you would have to go to the bar just to get a drink. But sometimes the bar got backed up because our bartender was making like alcoholic drinks and taking care of the bar top and things like that. And there would be people going behind there using like their soda gun because our one drink station got so backed up. But there were times like that. Or like our bartender would get so backed up and things like that that somebody else would have to jump in there. But our bartender was still there. Like that's how like crazy it was. So our bartender was like bartending, and like another server would jump in and she would be bartending. But like, besides the point. So, but here's the thing. And I've talked to a lot of servers. I mean, after being in the industry for so long, like, you know, a lot of servers. And the problem with this whole like new system is, I know when I've gone to like Chili's and Applebee's and things like that, they give you a survey at the end. And I know at other places, like even going to get your oil changed, they ask you to go online and fill out this survey. And if you really enjoyed it, then put like a 9 or a 10, because otherwise it doesn't count. But my thing is, it's like back when I worked at Lone Star, if we had those tabletop things, I would have to say like things would have been a lot different. Because I remember servers being pulled off the floor to become like food runners, and I remember servers coming up to me at the host stand being like, hey, don't seat my section anymore because I have to jump behind the bar to help our bartender out because they're backed up, and like they're still making drinks, but they need help with like the actual bar round. And I'm just thinking in my head, it's like, if our shifts and our like stuff was based off of like those stupid survey scores that every establishment has. I mean, shit, I go to Dunkin' Donuts almost every day and they want those surveys too. And you get a free donut if you do. Woo! Dunkin' Donuts still has donuts. I never go for the donuts. I go for the coffee. But I'm just thinking, it's like, I know of so many servers that would like step out of their section to help people out, and they would get dinged for it. In the modern age, they would have gotten dinged for it. And then another thing about when they would cut their shifts and do that kind of stuff, it would make the whole restaurant suffer. So in a sense, just because we got to the point where we were filling out random emails, that's how bad it got. Like signing up our mothers, brothers, sisters, auntie, uncle, blah, blah, blah. But for me, we were like killing ourselves for that collective punishment. Because say you jump behind the bar because you're not only the best server, but you are also an awesome bartender. And because you're bartending, you're not passing out those stupid little cards. So now our best server is getting their shifts cut because they don't have those stupid postcards. You're killing the rest of your servers. You are overworking a bunch of people because of your collective punishment. Because now you're punishing the whole floor for those few people that didn't fill out enough postcards. And that's one of the things that I hate about like the signups and stuff like that, because a lot of times the people that come in the door are regulars or they've already signed up. So now what? If you have a table, if you have your entire shift is full of regulars, obviously you're not going to get a new sign up. They've already brought in their emails. There's a reason why collective punishment, it goes against the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention was set up because of collective punishment. So the reason why I brought up wartime to begin with is because collective punishment is not only common in schools, but it is common in war. And the biggest examples of this stems back from 18 years ago. A group of people who identified as Islamic, Muslim, crashed 2 planes into towers in New York. 18 years later, we're still dealing with a Muslim ban. We're still dealing with the, people who are Islamic, people who are Muslim, are still 18 years later, who had no affiliation with that terrorist attack, are still being condemned because of the association of religion. That's it. That's the only thing that ties these two people together, is the fact that one group of awful people, terrorists, took 3 planes, 4 if I'm not mistaken, 1 in each tower, 1 in the Pentagon, and 1 in a field in Pennsylvania. Collective punishment. Because some people of a certain race are bad, all people of that race are bad. Collective punishment is an example of what happens when we are prejudiced against people. A scary African American male did this heinous crime. So now all African American males are scary. That's collective punishment. You're punishing a whole race and gender of the action of few. A handful of Hispanic males deal drugs and run guns. So now all Hispanic, even people, are drug dealing, gun running people. That's collective punishment. Most of the people in our financial institutions in this country are Jewish, so all Jews are bad. World War II. Holocaust. It is the biggest example of collective punishment there is in the world. The biggest in our history are Native Americans are savages. It is a collective punishment that turned into a prejudice. I can keep going. We need to work it out of our heads that the actions of a group of individuals is not the cause of all individuals like them. Not going back to World War II, going back to the Holocaust, going back to the thought process of people of the Jewish community. Not all Jewish people were bankers. Jewish people weren't the reason that the stock market crashed in New York on October 29th, 1929. So, because these horrible people had it in their minds that they thought that the reason that Germany was in the gutter, why they were blamed for World War I, why all of these horrible things were happening in their country was because of one religious group. They were all punished for that mindset. Because maybe there was one individual that was associated with the stock market crashing, maybe was associated with the big banks in Germany. Maybe they were on the council of the Treaty of Versailles. Maybe they were associated with something that made it so that Germany had to pay everybody back. And so now all they're bad. All right. This topic could go on and on forever, but let me know in the comments below what you think of collective punishment. Maybe you have an example. Maybe you've lived through it. Maybe you've worked somewhere or something like that. I know I've worked in a lot of places over the years, and the one I talked about now does no longer exist. So maybe that's a hint. But yeah. If you enjoyed my little rant of collective punishment, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you would like to. Hit the notification bell. I am out of school and I probably will be for the next few months, so I will be making videos more regularly. I know coming up I will have a video. I am heading to the German market in Chicago soon, right before Christmas. So I will have some pictures and some videos of that. But until then, I will see you next time in the Bat Cave. Have a great night, everyone.